everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Liz. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 favorite drugstore foundations. I will be talking about 5 drugstore foundations that I absolutely love, that I reach for all the time, oftentimes over my high-end foundations. These are all under $15, most of them are under $10. I also have a variety of types of foundations. I have a liquid to powder one, I have ones that are full coverage and light coverage, and hopefully something for everybody. Before I jump into it, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I would love to have you join the family. And without further ado, let's get into the video. I just want to go over quickly how I'm going to be reviewing each of these foundations. So I'm going to be talking about their packaging, their price, number of shades in the line, where you can purchase these or where I've seen them, how much product is in the container, price per ounce, because most of these foundations there's 1 ounce in the container, but a couple of them have less than an ounce, so I've done the math to tell you how much per ounce that would cost so that you know the value of all of them. I'm going to go over the claims of the foundation, so like what the brand is telling you it's supposed to do, and then everything after the claims are going to be my opinions. So I'm going to tell you how I feel about the consistency, the coverage, whether or not it oxidizes or whether or not it changes color when it's exposed to air, what the finish is like, how it feels on the skin, how much product I use to apply a full face, how I apply it, what tools I use, and whether or not I've noticed any flashback. I will mention what shades in the foundations I'm using, although my shade changes obviously from winter to summer, it changes, and I swatched all of these foundations on my arm and they're all very different. So I don't know if it's just my skin tone. I have a feeling everyone kind of experiences this with the foundations. It's just hard to find that exact match, but I will let you know what shade I'm applying in the clips, which brings me to the next point, is that I will be showing you clips of myself applying each of these foundations onto my skin and the tools that I use to do so that you can really see that foundation in action. One thing I'm not going to be talking about in this review is wear time, and there's 2 reasons for that. The first reason is that I personally, in my daily life, just don't wear foundation that long. When I do my makeup, it's usually in mid-morning to late morning to early afternoon, and when I take it off, it's never after like 8 o'clock that I take my makeup off. Rarely, very, very rarely. On a daily basis, I'm usually wearing my makeup for maybe 6 or 8 hours. I'm just not someone who wears makeup for 10 or 12 hours or more. I can't speak to that very well. The second reason is that if any of these foundations had bad wear time that I've noticed, they wouldn't be in my top 5. So as far as I have experienced, all of these have a good wear time. So I hope that makes sense. I also want to mention that I use at least 3 pumps of foundation every time I do my face. I just wanted to mention that because I will be talking about how much foundation I use, and if you're someone who uses less foundation than that, if you only use 1 or 2 pumps when you do your full face, you might not need to use as much as I do. On a general basis though, I just like to use a lot of foundation. I also have primed my face in every clip with the same primer. It's just the Too Faced Hangover RX primer. It's basically like a moisturizer. It doesn't fill in pores. It doesn't really change the texture of my skin. I didn't want to use anything like that so that you could really see how the foundations perform on their own. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that my brows are already done in the clip. The way that I do my brows is I fill them in and then I line them with either concealer or foundation depending on the day. So if you do notice a little bit of color around my brow area, that's what that is. That is everything that I wanted to say in the intro, so let's jump in and start with the first foundation. So the first foundation I want to talk about is the Milani Conceal Imperfect 2-in-1 Foundation and Concealer. This retails for $10. It comes in 19 different shades, which is a pretty good shade range. It comes in a glass bottle with a plastic cap, and it does have a pump, which is awesome. There is 1 fluid ounce in this container. The claims of this foundation are: you can combat under eye circles, redness, and other skin imperfections with this medium to full coverage foundation, water resistant plus concealer in one. It has a no mess, no drip pump, dispenses just the right amount of fluid needed to achieve a flawless look, and works around the clock to keep skin looking naturally perfect. Okay, the shade I have is 07 Sand. So the consistency of this foundation is very thick and it is a very full coverage foundation. This is the most full coverage foundation of all the ones I'm going to be talking about today, which also kind of makes it my favorite, especially in the winter time. This is a really good foundation for winter because it doesn't dry matte at all. The finish, I would say, is sort of a natural dewy finish. It's not like glowy in the sense that it has some like shimmer or anything in it, but it doesn't dry matte. And because of that, I do like to set this with a powder. I like to set it with maybe a glowy powder like the Milani Prep Set and Glow powder. That way it is not going to transfer onto my clothes or my baby, but it stays in place, but it still looks a little bit glowy. And that Milani powder is one of my favorites to set anything with because it has the effect of a powder without making it look cakey or powdery or too dry. By the way, I am looking at notes, so if you see me looking down, that's why I typed up a ton of notes for this video, so I am prepared. I did not notice any color change or oxidization as this dried on my face. How it feels on the skin, it feels like a full coverage foundation, but it feels like a comfortable full coverage foundation. So it doesn't dry too dry, it doesn't feel like it's cracking, but you can definitely feel it on the skin. I've never encountered a full coverage foundation that you can't feel on the skin. It doesn't feel bad, but you definitely do feel this one on the skin. So as you can see in the clip, I basically paint this on my face. I use about 4 or 5 pumps. I paint it on my face. I'm using the Real Techniques Essential Foundation brush, and I paint it pretty much all over everywhere I want the foundation. I bring it down my neck, and then after I've done that, I will go in with the Real Techniques sponge and blend it into the skin even more with a damp sponge. I find that that creates the most full coverage and also gives the most natural finished look. I did not notice any flashback with this foundation, although it does have SPF ingredients in it. It doesn't really have much of a smell. And where you can buy this foundation, I have seen this at Ulta or on the Ulta website. I'm not sure if I've seen it in Ulta stores. I have seen it in CVS and on the Milani website as well. The next foundation I want to talk about is from e.l.f. This is their Flawless Finish foundation. This foundation retails for $6. It comes in 11 shades. This is a glass bottle with a plastic cap, and it also has a pump. There are 0.68 ounces in here, which comes to $8.82 per ounce. The claims of this foundation are lightweight and oil-free formula, blends in naturally for a beautiful semi-matte finish, applies easily, lasts all day, for visibly brighter, radiant-looking skin, restores uneven texture and tones, SPF 15. The shade that I have is tan. It used to be buff, so my bottle says buff because when I bought this, it was before they changed their shade names, and now if I were to buy this again, it would be in the shade tan. The consistency of this is pretty thick, a little bit, not quite as thick as the Milani foundation, but still real thick. The coverage I would say is medium to full. You can build this one up a little bit. So the way that I like to apply this foundation is a little bit different. I like to paint it on the skin with the Real Techniques foundation brush, blend it into the skin with a sponge, and then I will go in with a second layer applied with a brush and blend it in with a buffing brush rather than a sponge. I feel like this foundation, I believe it's water-based. I'm not super good at like understanding what makes a foundation water-based or oil-based or whatever, but the first ingredient on here is water, so that makes me think it's water-based, which is why I like to do that second layer not with a sponge, because a sponge will absorb a water-based foundation, a lot more of that product. I like to use the buffing brush for that second layer to really get that full coverage that I prefer. And I just use, like I said, the buffing brush by Real Techniques. I find that works really well. So the coverage that I get out of this is medium to full coverage. It has a natural semi-matte finish, not really completely matte, but sort of on the matte side, very natural looking. I really love how this looks on the skin. It's very impressive for such an affordable price. This does feel very comfortable on the skin. Again, you can feel that you're wearing foundation. I don't know if it's because of the sunscreen that it does feel a little bit thicker on the skin, but it's still comfortable. It's not uncomfortable or heavy by any means. It does have a sunscreen smell. I usually use about 3 or 4 pumps when I'm using this foundation, and I did notice flashback with this foundation. That is one thing that I did notice when I'm wearing this, is that my skin just feels lighter, especially if I'm filming. It just feels a little bit lighter. So that is something that I noticed. And I have seen this foundation available for purchase on Ulta website, at Target, at CVS, and on the e.l.f. website. Next, I have the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. This one retails for $5.99. It comes in 20 shades, which is amazing. It comes in a glass bottle here. It has this plastic cap, and then it has this sort of different applicator, which is kind of like a wand, I guess I would call it. And it's got a little bit turned up here so that you can kind of scoop the foundation out and then kind of paint it onto the skin, or like draw it onto the skin, I guess. I do use that wand when I apply it, although it's kind of inconvenient. I would be okay if it was a pump, but you know, it's something different. So the claims of this foundation are: your skin only better. Wet n Wild's high-performing skin perfecting photo focus foundation underwent major road testing under 7 different photo lighting conditions to deliver flawless camera-ready makeup every time, specially made with a matte, light diffusing complex to give your skin #NoFilter perfection. The shade I have is Golden Beige. I actually have two shades. The other shade I have is Desert Beige. The consistency of this foundation is pretty thin. It's definitely a lot more thin than the last two that I talked about, which is interesting that they gave it this kind of applicator because it's so thin. I'm dipping into this bottle a lot to get foundation out of it and onto my skin. I did not notice any oxidization with this foundation. The way I like to apply this foundation is in layers with the wand. I do feel like this layers very nicely. I like to apply it first with the wand, and then I like to use a firmer beauty sponge, like the BH Cosmetics beauty sponge. It's a little bit firmer than the Real Techniques one, and just push it into the skin. I find that this coverage can go from light and it's buildable all the way up to like a medium or full coverage. Like I said, I can really layer this foundation to get whatever kind of finish that I want or whatever kind of coverage that I want. And another thing that I like about this is that it's good for all seasons. I like to wear it in the summer with just one layer, and I've also been enjoying it in the winter with multiple layers. So this is kind of the most versatile, I would say, foundation of all of them. The finish, they say that it's supposed to be matte. It's not matte for me at all. It's a natural finish. It's definitely tacky. If I don't set it with the powder, it will rub off on my clothes or whatever. And then for the amount of product that you use, it depends on how much coverage you want. Like I said, I can go with one layer, which would be maybe like 2 or 3 scoops, up to more layers, which could be as many as 6 or 7 or 8 scoops. I mean, I don't think a scoop is as much as a pump of foundation, so it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. But it is definitely more on the high maintenance side because you have to dip the wand in and put it on your face over and over again. So there's that. This does not feel like anything on the skin, which is another reason why I love it. It feels literally like nothing. Like you could forget you have foundation on. I love that so much. Unless you have it built up to like really, really full coverage and then set with a lot of powder, then you're gonna start to feel it a little bit. But on an average everyday basis, when I wear this, I don't really feel like I have foundation on at all, and I really love that. I did not notice any flashback with this foundation, and this foundation is available at Ulta, Walgreens, CVS, Target, and the Wet n Wild website. So this is probably the most easily accessible foundation of all of them as well. I know some people have mentioned that they notice that it has a paint-like smell. I guess it kind of does, but to me it just smells like a foundation. Like, it's not scented, it doesn't smell good, it doesn't smell like a fake scent, which I don't really like scented foundations personally, but it does have a smell. To me, it just smells like a foundation. I don't know, that's just me. Okay, 2 more to go. So now I want to talk about the NYX Total Control Drop Foundation. This one retails for $14 and comes in 30 shades. So this one is the best shade selection of all of them that I'm talking about. 30 shades is awesome. This comes in a glass bottle with a little rubber tipped dropper applicator. So this is kind of a unique applicator. I've never tried anything like this, and I remember when I bought it I didn't use it for a while because I was kind of afraid to, but I'm so glad that I did because I really do enjoy it now. There are 0.43 ounces in here, which is less than half an ounce, so way less product. This is the least amount of product that you get of all of the foundations that I'm talking about, and this comes out to $32.56 per ounce. So this is also the most expensive foundation per ounce, and the most expensive foundation, period, of the ones I'm talking about. This, like I said, retails for $14, but it's $32.56 per ounce, so the price is higher on this one. So here are the claims of this foundation. It says, fine-tune this velvety matte foundation with the included dropper. Simply adjust the number of drops until you create the look you're feeling today. Want more coverage? Add more drops. Buff expertly using the Total Control Drop Foundation brush for a seriously smooth finish. I don't have that brush. I find it works just fine without that brush. The shade I have is called Beige. The consistency of this is very, very, very thin. This is the thinnest consistency of all of these foundations I'm talking about, and I think of any foundation that I own, which is why it's in the drop foundation. It's similar to the Fenty. The Fenty Beauty one is very thin too, but this one is even a little bit thinner. So the way that I like to apply this is to just drop it on my face. You can do it in sections or you can do it all at once. And a little bit does go a long way. I will do 3, maybe 4 drops of this foundation, you know, 1 per section, and blend it out. I'm blending it out in this clip with the EcoTools sponge. I find pretty much any damp sponge works pretty well to blend it out. I did not notice any flashback with this foundation, and one thing that I don't agree with that the claims say is I do not believe this is layerable on me. I cannot layer this foundation. Once I get that one layer, which is why sometimes I will work in sections, I'll just do one section of my face at a time, because this does dry down pretty matte. It doesn't layer very well. It doesn't mix in with other products super well, like cream bronzers and stuff like that. It doesn't mix in super well. It's doable, it's just a little bit more work. So this is one of the ones that I feel like it just doesn't layer well. You pretty much get what you get the first time. Although, that being said, the coverage is medium to full coverage with a very thin layer. And I do feel like a little bit goes a long way, which is awesome. And it doesn't feel like anything. This is another one that really doesn't feel like anything on the skin. I love this one because it has such good coverage without feeling like it's full coverage. So that's what I really like about this one. And again, the finish is really nice. It is a natural matte finish, which I think is really beautiful. I'm enjoying this foundation for sure. Even though it is definitely on the more expensive side, I definitely will keep this one in my collection. I did not notice any flashback with this foundation, and I have seen this for sale at CVS, Target, Walgreens, now is carrying NYX, the NYX website, and Ulta. So I guess this one is pretty well available too, like the Wet n Wild one. Okay guys, the last one I have is the Soap & Glory One Heck of a Blot foundation. This retails for $9.49. This one only comes in 4 shades. I know. That's the crappy part about this foundation. That's definitely the worst shade selection of any of these. They need to get more shades in this. They really do, because I like this foundation. Obviously, it's in my top 5, so it's a good product. They just need to improve the shade range. This one comes in a plastic bottle with a plastic cap, and it does have a pump as well. There is 1 ounce of product in here. Here are the claims of this foundation. Fabulous, flawless, full coverage, Soap & Glory's One Heck of a Blot foundation is an all-day liquid to powder foundation with Shine Block 12-hour long wear technology and super blur powders. Offers ultimate shine control designed to give skin a flawless, non-cakey, soft focus finish, perfection in a bottle. The shade I have here is Caramel, and I also have the shade Happy Medium. The consistency of this is very, very thick. This is definitely the thickest of all of the ones I'm talking about, thicker than the Milani one. It comes out almost like clay, and it's so thick that sometimes it clogs the pump, and I have to like push on the pump a bunch of times to clear it out before I actually get the foundation, because it's so thick that it clogs the pump. This also oxidizes the most of any of them. I feel like it oxidizes a good 2 or 3 shades darker once it dries down. So the way I like to apply this onto my skin is I like to paint it on with a pointed foundation brush, but a flat one would work probably just as well. I like to blend it out with a damp sponge. It's very important that you hydrate your skin well before you use this, and then I think it's essential that you blend it out with a damp sponge because it's liquid. Because it is a liquid to powder foundation, you really need that dampness in the sponge to distribute it evenly and create that nice natural finish. Otherwise, it's going to look streaky on the skin. And in the clip here, I'm using the Real Techniques sponge. The coverage of this one is, I would say, medium to full, basically full. Again, like the NYX one, this one does not layer. This one layers even less well than the NYX one. Like, if you try to layer this, after even like 10 seconds of it sitting on your skin, you're going to get a streak of foundation, or at least I do. I get a streak of, like, it removes the foundation. Instead of painting it on, it removes, it just doesn't layer well. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. But it's okay because, like I said, it's medium to full coverage, so you get really, really good coverage with just 1 layer. I totally agree with the claims here where it says give skin a flawless, non-cakey, soft focus finish. This is definitely the most like beautiful finish of all of the foundations. It's like beyond natural. Like, it looks like your skin is airbrushed or face tuned or something like that. It's crazy how beautiful the finish is of this foundation. I really, really love it. Why it's in my top 5, even though I hate the shade selection, I love the finish of this product. And because it is a liquid to powder foundation, it is a very matte finish. It does feel dry on the skin, which again is why I say you want to hydrate your skin before you apply this, and you want to push it in with a damp beauty sponge. I also recommend setting your face with a hydrating spray. I really like to use the Too Faced Hangover RX spray when my skin is feeling dry after I have makeup on. I absolutely do not need to set this with a powder after I apply it. It is good to go. I did notice some flashback with this one as well, sad to say. And then where I can buy this, I buy this at Target, Walgreens, Ulta, and the Soap & Glory website. However, I did notice on the Soap & Glory website, it's $19. And it's only, I think it's $9.49 on the Ulta website. So don't buy it on the Soap & Glory website. Okay guys, that is everything. Those are my top 5 drugstore foundations. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. Let me know what your favorite drugstore foundations are. Are any of these your favorites? How do you feel about them? Have you tried them? Are you gonna try them now that I've mentioned them? I would love to hear what your favorites are too. Maybe I will try those next. If you are interested in seeing maybe top 5 high-end foundations, let me know that in the comment section. I could definitely do that for you guys. Make sure that you subscribe before you go. Like I said, I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do throw in bonus videos here and there, so make sure you have that notification bell turned on so you don't miss any of those. And thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will talk to you again very soon. Bye.